Good evening. Welcome to Staten Island Technical High School's college application submission procedures for the class of 2025. I'm Ellen Devine, and I'm hoping that the majority of this information is going to be a reminder of where you should be at this point in time and the actions that you should be prepared to be making within the next few weeks. So can we go to the next slide? Can we go to the next slide, please?
Yep. Oh, we're at the next slide. Let's see. Why isn't it working? I'm sorry about this. 1 second, please.
Everybody?
We're at the next slide now.
Okay. All right. So the most important piece of this at this point in time is for you to recognize your deadlines. So the early decision, early action, restrictive early action all have particular deadlines depending on the school. It's important for you to pay attention to those deadlines because for you, they are hard and fast. There's no wiggle room. So if they say October 15th, it's October 15th. If they say November 1st, it's November 1st. So pay close attention to those. We in the college office, as a reminder, have to process 357 students' applications to multiple schools. And so we need to know your intentions by October 2nd if you are applying to any of the earlies, early decision, early action, or restrictive early action. So that's our deadline to understand what you are intending to do. It does not mean that you have to complete your application. It just means you need to complete the electronic sheet, which we will be releasing to you after Monday's meeting by that due date, October 2nd. So, and then for regular decisions, enrolling admissions, the college, those deadlines might start December 1st and anytime after that. And for our purposes, again, for the same reasons, we are asking to have that sheet complete and submitted to us by November 15th to include any regular decisions or rolling admissions that you are intending to apply to. Next slide, please. All right. So many of you have already done this, and that's fabulous. I know because you're coming in and you're asking me questions about it. So you're going to create your Common App account. You're going to complete the FERPA. You're going to add your colleges to the Common App. And then you need to, most importantly, match your Common App to Naviance. So if you do not do that, we're not going to have any idea of what you're intending to do. So understand also that for every college you apply to, there's an application fee, and it's different for each college. Be certain that you put, if you need to pay the fee, then make sure that you do it correctly for each college that you're applying to on the Common App. Most colleges also require a supplement to the application. And once you put in your colleges into that Common App, you'll be able to go into each individual college and pull up the required supplements that you need to complete. If you don't do those supplements, then your application is going to be incomplete and it's not going to be processed. So it's not really very difficult, but it requires close attention. So as you're putting your Common App together, make sure that you are reading everything clearly and thoroughly and giving the correct answers to whatever's being asked of you. Okay, it's the most common problem is, people rush through and miss certain things that are important. So take your time and make sure that you're thorough. All right, so next slide, please. Okay, so some of you will be applying to schools that don't participate in the Common App, and they're school-specific forms. So you're going to be applying directly to the particular school. And some of those are University of California, Georgetown, MIT, for example. So you will know clearly whether or not that the school that you want to apply to does not use the Common App, because it'll be all over their website and you will not find it on the Common App. So it's a very different way of applying, and you have to also be mindful of your completion in a timely manner, because the teachers and the counselors are not going to receive the request to submit their portion of your application until you submit yours. So then we'll get an alert and we will be able to upload all the information that's asked for. But we are in the position where we're waiting for you to do that. Back to why that online yellow form, which is what we used to call it, is so important. So we know what you intend to do, and we can keep our eyes open for those email alerts that you are applying to any of those colleges. Again, pay the fee online or request a fee waiver if you're eligible. And a reminder that the eligibility for our purposes is determined by the lunch form. So if you have not filled out the lunch form, please do so, because otherwise we're not going to be able to determine whether or not you are eligible for a fee waiver, and it just slows down the whole process. So please pay attention to that. So in addition to adding the colleges onto the Common App, you're going to also enter those colleges on your Naviance account once you have matched them. So it's very important that you do that, because again, if you do not match it, we're not going to be able to see what it is that you intend to do. We don't have direct access to the Common App. We only have the information you provide to us that gets shared with Naviance once you add it. So please make sure that you do that. And anything that you change, that you update it, so that we are always right there with you with what you're trying to do. So unlike last year, Stony Brook has moved their early action deadline back to November 1st. We're all very happy about that. October 15th was really early, and they announced it late last year. So happy to announce that it's back to November 1st again. Next slide, please. Okay, so CUNY. I believe that Ms. Tana posted today a couple of different opportunities with CUNY to understand a little bit more from the Macaulay and for also the regular CUNY application. So they're going to have a virtual meeting where you can go on, information meeting, where you'll be able to ask questions and have step-by-step anything about this application that you may have concerns about. There is going to be a period of time where they're waiving the application fee. So again, Ms. Tana sent you those dates. I don't want to misquote them, but she sent them to you so that you will see for both CUNY and SUNY the period of time when they're waiving the fee. So you have to, before you can even access the CUNY account, you have to create a CUNY First account. If you have taken college now, you already have a CUNY First account. So that's where you're going to start. But if you have never taken college now, then you have to create your account. So there's a self-service page that will display all the admissions decisions and give students the ability to accept or decline eventually an offer of admission. Again, all of these applications, although time-consuming, are not necessarily difficult if you read them carefully. So if you apply while they're not waiving the fee, it's $65. And that, these are the various ways that you can pay. My suggestion is, if you can manage to apply during the time where it's free, it's well worth it to get that done. Okay, so if you include your OSIS number, the CUNY system can access your transcript directly because we're all part of the SIG system, so they can do that. If you don't add your OSIS number, then they cannot, and they will be contacting us or you, asking about submitting that transcript. So it's something that's pretty simple to do. You write that on everything all the time, so you should be able to just include that, and it's one less thing that we have to be concerned about. So anyone who takes college courses have the ability to report that coursework, and you're going to be self-reporting at this point in time in the initial application, those classes and those grades and your AP tests and scores and all that. Eventually, they're going to ask for a transcript from the college once you decide whether or not you're going to attend the particular school that you've applied to. And similar with the standardized test scores, you can put them in yourself right now, but once they decide whether or not you decide whether or not you're going to attend, they're going to want an official score report. So for CUNY's purposes, their score code is 2950. Every institution has their own code. So you'll see when that needs to be submitted at that time. Information about fee waivers and application deadlines to Macaulay Honors, Sophie Davis, School of Biomedical Engineering, City College of New York, Brooklyn College's BAMD, is all information that can be found on the CUNY website. So if you're interested in any of those particular programs, you need to investigate, if you have not done so already, exactly what it is that they're asking for, and make sure that you do everything that they've required of you. Sophie Davis has a bit of a later deadline. Macaulay is November 15th, and Sophie Davis is usually December 30th. So again, you're going to know that better than I, because you're going to thoroughly investigate everything and make sure that you're not missing any deadlines. Okay, so the Macaulay is non-binding. In recent history, they have started to use a wait list. So, don't get discouraged if you don't get it initially, receive an offer from Macaulay. It could come down the road because many people, believe it or not, turn down the offer from Macaulay. So just follow all the instructions and you'll be in great shape. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is the question of the hour regarding SAT scores. So it's shifting. Some of the more elite schools, the Ivies in particular, are moving back towards, if they haven't already returned to SAT being a requirement, they're heading that way. So again, as you are considering your colleges, make sure that you know what it is that they're requiring. So it's really hard to keep up because they are, there's so many colleges and they're forever in flux. It's become a very complicated process. It's always been relatively complicated, but more so now, post-pandemic, as people try to settle into where they're gonna be. Not requiring being test optional had many more students applying to colleges that they would not have normally. So it has really skewed things for the colleges. It's good that they have more applications, but it's difficult because it makes everything much more competitive. So hence the shift back with many schools to requiring the test just to have another data point, so that they haven't increased their class sizes. They just, have so many more applicants than they used to have. So I want to remind students, and I say this constantly whenever I speak to any one of you one-on-one, that most colleges are reasonably okay with you taking the SAT up to 3 times. They feel like, one test is a baseline, the second test you see how you're standing, and if you're unhappy, a third test is not unreasonable. However, once you go beyond that third test, it starts to have a negative impact on you. And the schools are going to see all of your exams, and it starts to look like, that just what it is, that you're trying to get a better score. And it's supposed to be an assessment of where you are right now, not where you can get if you prep more. So there's that fine line. Please keep in mind, even for those schools who are requiring it and you feel like you may not have as high a score as you would like or you think the college wants, it's just another data point. And if you have a strong rigor to your classes that you've taken over time, and you have activities you're involved in, and things that you're passionate about that you're going to be sharing in your application, all of that has an influence on whether or not you're a candidate for a school. There's not going to be, because you didn't get that magic number that you think you need, or even that they say on their website you need, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get in. There's so many factors to the whole process. So just keep that in mind. There are so many better ways to use your time than to be retaking a standardized exam right now, especially if you have made your 3. Then just, you can come in and we can talk it through. But I'm gonna imagine that it's going to be better time spent on your activities and in keeping your GPA up than preparing for another standardized test. So keep your mind open, and at this point you've done what you can with that. Next slide, please. Okay, so more on this about the idea that more schools are allowing you to self-report. As a matter of fact, they're probably requiring you to self-report. But once admission has been offered, the standardized, the official score reports need to go. And anything beyond that first test that you took is going to show up on that score report. So you need to just be mindful of that. And again, if you haven't overdone it, then I think that you'll be in good shape. But you have to be really mindful of individual schools' policies. One thing I want to say about what appears now on colleges' websites, as far as the high and low and mid range, is a bit skewed, because we've had a few years now where it's been test optional. And so the people that are taking the tests are like, our students, who are very, mindful of all these data points, and they're taking the test. So they're scoring very high. And so whereas maybe 6 or 8 years ago, the mid-range might have been different because it was more of a bell curve. Now it's a little skewed because the majority of students that are taking it know that they're going to do well, and so they, like with any test, are affecting that curve. So just keep all these things in mind, and you are more than your scores. You all have a lot to offer. So that's what I encourage you to talk about and to emphasize as you're completing your applications. Next slide, please. Okay, so also a very popular question is the fee waivers. So again, as I said earlier, the fee waivers are based on a few things. The quick version is they're based on the lunch form and the data that we receive from that as regarding family income. But there is also an exception to that. If you received a fee waiver previously for the SAT, then you are afforded a couple of fee waivers for free automatically. They'll appear on your College Board site, and you can access them. So check your account to make sure whether or not, because you might not even remember, everyone's doing so much. And you'll have a code, and you use that, and you can use it for up to 4 applications. So on the Common App, there's questions that we have to answer. Again, in regards to your family's particular financial circumstances, to see whether or not you qualify. So the more information that you provide, the easier it is for us to discern, the particular rationale for the fee waiver. Is it because of the SAT fee waiver you had in the past? Or is it, because you're income eligible based on the lunch form? So you have to, again, follow the process for each college and submit whatever they want. And if it ends up that you need to pay the fee, then you have to, you either have to pay the fee, or if you don't qualify based on our standards, sometimes you can appeal directly to the college to see whether or not they will offer you a fee waiver. So again, it's a lot of work, doing the application and navigating this whole process of how you're going to pay for it. Each application, So I can't say it enough, and I know Ms. Malafont has already, been encouraging everyone and all grade levels to fill out that lunch form. It's really, for us, a very important document so that we can establish who needs our assistance with all of these potential fee waivers. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so matching the Common App to Naviance. To submit your supporting documents, this has to be done. Otherwise, you can put anything on the Common App you want. We're not going to know about it. We're not going to be able to follow you. We won't be able to match the documents that we have in queue. We have all the teacher recommendations. We're going to have the counselor recommendations, all the reports, the counselor reports, teacher report, all of that, school profile. Everything is on Naviance on our end. So it's imperative that the Common App gets matched. So you also have to sign that FERPA. Now the FERPA is a little bit of a go-around so that you can do it quickly, because that is also going to hold up the works. But you need to add at least one college. One college is going to allow you to sign that FERPA, and then you're going to go onto Naviance, the colleges I'm applying to, click the match button, enter your email and birth date, click, and you're matched. Okay, so it's pretty simple, and you can go back and add more colleges to your list. You don't have to wait until you have every college on there to do this. And then it will automatically migrate to Naviance as long as you sign the FERPA and you click that match button. So again, it seems simple, but sometimes in a student's rush to get things done, they neglect to sign that FERPA and it just sits there. And we have a big red FERPA's not signed on our ends. And eventually, if it doesn't, change, then we're going to have to reach out and say, if you would like us to process your documents, please sign the FERPA. So these are the things that you are responsible for. We cannot do it for you. So the whole process of being in high school is preparing you for independence, which means that you're responsible for completing the tasks that are assigned to you, whatever they may be. So this is crucial. All right, and simple. So please pay attention and get that done. Next slide. Okay. Ms. Kirschbaum, if there's any questions, stop me, because otherwise I'm just kind of pushing on through here. All right, so every year we have college reps that come in and visit our school in this fall term, specifically for the seniors. So
Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Devine. There was a question about what is the FERPA?
Okay, so FERPA is an agreement that you're signing to say that you agree you will not have access to your recommendations. So you're not going to read them, you're not going to assess them, you're just going to allow us to upload them. So if you don't sign that agreement, then those recommendations cannot be sent. All right, it's not going to allow us to do that. So it's just an agreement that you're signing, saying that you understand that you and agree that you are not going to have access to those recommendations. Okay. All right. So senior year is your year to have all the reps to yourself. It's only for the senior class. In the spring, we had the bigger event, which was the college fair, and many colleges come and you have a few moments really to interact with the reps. If you're strategic, you had more time than that, but it's not intimate by any means for the most part. So, but it gives you exposure, and it gives you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the rep, who is also going to be here now in the fall term. And I think that it's starting September 23rd. It's on you'll see it in the in Naviance. You'll be getting alerts through the classroom of the schedule. You need to go into, some of you already have signed up in Naviance for particular colleges that you want to sit and meet with the rep. So it's really a wonderful opportunity. They come, so we have at this point, and we've only just opened it up in the last week or so, we already have 50 or more colleges who have signed up, mostly in person, but some of them will be doing things virtually. So keep your eyes open for them, and things that you are interested in getting more one-on-one attention from the rep. Make sure that you sign up for to meet with them, and there'll be a form online that you fill out and you print it, and you need to have if you're coming out of lunch, you just show the lunch the people in the lunchroom your pass, and you can come up. If you're coming out of a class, I would suggest that you don't come out of an important double period science or math class, but if you have an elective class or a class that you feel like the teacher would be okay with you coming out of, then you have the teacher sign off on it, and you're welcome to come. They're going to be scattered around the building. So for the colleges that have a lot of popularity and draw a lot of students, we're putting them in the library or the auditorium, depending on how many students. And for smaller groups, they'll be in the college office, we have a conference area, and we'll be using 134 as well for larger groups. So you have to really pay attention to where it's going to be, and it may get moved if people sign up last minute. We need a bigger space, so just make sure that you stay on top of where it's located, and if you don't find them there where we said it was going to be, then pop in the college office, and we'll probably have a sign on the door, but you can come in and ask too where they have been moved to. So it's a great opportunity. Those reps are also part of the team that's going to be reading your applications. I don't know exactly what portion of the application they read, because, you know, there's many people who look at those applications, some looking at the transcripts, some looking at the supplements, some are looking at your essays. So they're involved in it. And they're your go-to for questions. If you have a question even after these visits that you want a little clarity on, they're the ones that know in real time exactly what their college expects, and can advise you in the best way. So again, introduce yourself, ask good questions. Don't be passive in these visits, because this is a unique opportunity. And you know, they're coming in to talk to you, and they want to know you, and they want to, you know, I always end up talking with them either before or after. I like to speak to them after their visits, because they tell me how wonderful you all are. And we know that, but we want them to know it too. So that has an influence on, you know, when they see your name come across the desk with your application, like, oh, you know, I remember this student, they had really insightful questions to ask, or you know, had an interesting story to share. So it's absolutely good practice in networking, and an opportunity. So take advantage of it. And again, it's the teacher's discretion. So if for some reason they say, I'm sorry, you can't, you need to respect that. And then we can always figure something else out, as far as maybe connecting you with an email where you can, you know, email the rep and ask any questions you might have had. All right. Next slide, please.
Ms. Devine, would it be okay if I show some questions on the screen?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, 1 second, please.
So it's always a good idea to dress. It doesn't have to be formal, but definitely, you know, business casual. So, you know, not sloppy, not, you know, shorts and Crocs and stuff. You know, just to dress as if they were going on an interview, perhaps for an internship or something like that. So no, not necessarily wear a suit and tie or, you know, formal attire, but you want to be professional in how you dress. Anything else? Okay. So it's tricky with the SAT and ACT, because when you self-report, of course, you're going to submit you're going to give them your highest score. But at the end of the day, once you say, yes, I'm attending your school, and they say, well, send us an official score report, all the scores appear. And it's not going to, unless you were not truthful, it's not going to have a negative impact, unless you, number one, were not truthful, or number two, you took, you know, 5, 6, 7 SATs, and they wonder, where was that high one? So again, if you have listened to me over the past 2 years say the same thing 1,000 times, don't overdo it with the SAT, because it starts to lose its value if you overdo it. So again, it's kind of like one of those slippery kind of situations where initially you will report the highest, of course, and then at the end of the day, the school that you're accepting is going to see them all. So, and don't let it sway you, you know, or upset you. If, again, you've taken 3, and maybe it could be that the first one was the great one, and that's fine. Okay. Do students get assistance with their college essays in any of their classes? That depends on your English teacher. Some of the teachers, in the past, we had teachers who they made it an assignment in junior year, and they worked with students on their essays. I don't know, that's something to really talk to your English teacher about. I'm sure, I know that for myself, there are students who have already approached me and sent me things, and I give them feedback. I know that Ms. Cavalier also will do that, and that there are English teachers willing, but you need to request. You can't assume that anybody's going to do that for you. So, but generally, we all try to support you in the best ways that we can, so that you get into the schools that you would like to. I just want to spend a little bit of time, maybe not a little bit of time, but in regards to using artificial intelligence to write your essays, please, please, please don't do that. Some of the Dartmouth in particular is no longer accepting any essays from students because of that. They want your authentic voice. They don't want, a perfect essay. They don't want it sounding like it's coming from a 50-year-old. They want you to speak. They want to know who you are. So it's okay to use it as a brainstorming technique. Here are some ideas. What do you think? But don't use it to write your whole essay. It's gonna work against you. And it's not about a perfect essay. It's about an authentic one, and one that speaks to things that are important to you, which may not be the same, absolutely or not the same for every one of you. So you all have a unique story to share. How many schools should students be applying to on average? Well, my wish is that people would keep their lists to 12 to 15. I think that if you have done your research, then that is really plenty. You're going to have your targets, safeties, and reaches, and you should not have more reaches than anything else, because it's a reach for a reason. It's something that's a little out of your immediate purview. So you don't want to have excessive amounts of them, because it's going to be exhausting trying to prove yourself in a situation over and over again. So that's my suggestion. So just what I said. So can we just go back to the other question before the Dartmouth? You can superscore, but again, they're going to, the schools themselves will do the superscoring. So initially you can do it, but eventually when they get the score reports, they will. And there's some kind of conversion now that they have to, compare the new electronic with the old paper. So that's going to be interesting to see. But again, initially you can, and then down the road, you're going to have to give them everything. Okay, now to Dartmouth. So Dartmouth just sent an announcement at the beginning of September saying that they're no longer accepting the essay as part of their application because of this overuse of the AI. So they're just looking at other things. I don't know if they're going to ask for a written piece of any kind, maybe something from a teacher that was graded and marked up. I don't know, but that's what they announced, that they are not going to, they're not going to be asking for it because they're not going to read them. So the AP scores are not on the transcript, and that is something that you're going to self-report. And again, once you accept a particular school, they will say, okay, now send us a score report. So the same kind of thing, that those score reports are available on your College Board account, and you will submit them when the time comes. But initially, this is all self-reported information. It's important, I will add, that there was a I guess right after we came back from the pandemic, a whole large group of students decided not to take the AP exam. So they took the class, they didn't take the exam. And I hope that never happens again, because I had to write so many special reports explaining why a student didn't take an exam. Because once that they get the information at the beginning of the year that you're taking, these are the classes you're taking, the expectation is, of course, you're going to take the AP exam. And they want an explanation as to why you do not. So please, you're working really hard. Just, keep in mind that the follow through is to take the exam and to supply the colleges with those scores, because they're using that to assess the rigor of your transcript. We do not, as a school, add any rigor on our end. We don't weight anything. Everything is just exactly what it is. However, the colleges do. Once they get our transcripts, they say, oh, they didn't weight anything. Let's go through and weight it. And so they need those score reports for your APs to see whether or not your grade the teacher gave you is in alignment with what you received to demonstrate mastery through the AP exam. So please make sure you do that. Okay, there will be.
I'm gonna stop with the questions and come back to more questions after you're done with your slideshow.
Okay, very good. All right, so then we can move on. We can move to the next slide. Okay, so we are going to have a separate financial aid information night on the 26th of September. And that, is going to be virtual only. It's, I don't want to get into it too deeply because it's still a little messy, but FAFSA, of course, is the free application for federal student aid. Every student applies, completes the FAFSA every year that they're in college. And, the first time's the most painful, because that's when you have to put in, all the information, soup to nuts. But once you have established your account, then you're just opening up for the next year, and you're uploading the financial documents for that year, for that financial aid year. So we'll get into that more deeply on the 26th, but just knowing right now, and if you have siblings or cousins or friends who have gone through this process, it's something that gets done every year that you're in college. And whether or not you think that you're going to qualify, it's important to do it, because for one thing, you never really know whether or not you might qualify for something. And if you don't fill it out, you're shorting yourself. And everyone uses this data to determine how much aid. So, please remember that it's important that you do that. And in New York, we have the TAP, which is you'll find it at the end of your FAFSA. And again, I'll get into more detail with that. But even if you don't think you're going to go to school in New York, you should still fill out the TAP, because people change their minds all the time. And if you don't fill it out, you're not eligible. So the CSS profile is the private school's financial aid form, to keep it simple. And it's an opportunity, to take a more detailed look into your finances, maybe have an opportunity to explain things that you couldn't on the FAFSA. And it's, for most colleges, private colleges, they require it. So that is October 1st. It opens up. And generally, depending on the school, and again, you have to make sure that you have your list solid and you've done your research and you know what they're asking for. because sometimes for particular considerations, you have to complete your CSS profile by a certain date. So it could be November, it could be December, whatever the school tells you. It's not hard and fast for everyone. So again, there's no way around it. If you're applying to a private school and you're looking for financial assistance, then that is as important as the FAFSA. So both need to be done. The FAFSA is free. The CSS profile is not free. And so you'll see that there's a fee attached, and you have to send it to individual schools. So each time you send it to a school, there's a fee attached to that. So back to how many colleges should you apply to? Be mindful that these are all like the little charges that start adding up, and you haven't even gotten out of high school yet. So make sure that you're spending your money wisely. Okay, so so October 1st is available. Make sure that you get it done, and from that they will give you like a preliminary package, and tied in with the FAFSA, you'll have, the federal monies that you may be entitled to will also eventually appear once you complete that application. So again, more will be discussed on the 26th at 7. All right. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is the final chapter here. And again, I know I'm repeating myself, but it all bears repeating, and somebody's going to come to me tomorrow and ask me this exact question. I absolutely can guarantee that. So make sure that you know what's going on for your graduating class. So you're going to be the incoming freshman class of 2025 for that institution. So you need to know what are the requirements for that incoming class, not what was for 2024, but what will it be for you? So again, you have to, I hope that you will have your list solid, and that, you're saying, I've already done this, I know it. But if you have not done it and you don't know it, you need to do it and understand what it is that they're going to need from you. Exactly. So the other thing that I can't stress enough, that even if they say that, November 1st is the deadline, there's no need to wait until 5 minutes to midnight on the 31st to submit your application. There's no rule that says you cannot submit it earlier than that. And if you are taking all the suggestions that have been given along the way and know where you're applying and have a plan as to how you're going to execute this, you should be able to get those applications done way before the deadline. And understand also that other places in the country, they've been in school since August. So they've also been applying to colleges since August. So by the time you're rushing to meet that November 1st deadline, a good portion of the country has already applied. So just keep it in mind that you want to demonstrate to the colleges that you care enough about them to do a good job with your application and do it in a timely fashion. So, the other thing that can happen with they're not going to accept it 1 minute after midnight, for one thing. And for another, if the system crashes, nobody is going to say, oh, okay, we understand. They're just going to say, well, you should have applied sooner. You should have planned better. So please plan better. As soon as the FAFSA becomes available, which they're going to roll it out October 1st to some schools, and then we'll have to see. I will keep you apprised as I get more information. But where I'm encouraging you as soon as it's available for our students to apply, do it. Because again, everything that you're doing right now is important. You know, your activities that you're continuing to do are important. Your GPA that you're doing straight through senior year is important. And so is meeting these deadlines for financial aid and for your college applications. It's all important. So time management is going to be crucial for all of this. And prioritizing what needs to get done. Okay. So any changes you make to your list of colleges, you must add or delete those choices on Naviance and inform us electronically. Actually, I think that we've changed that. You're no longer going to resubmit the form. There's going to be a Google form that you fill out with any changes that you make. All that will be released to you, as I said earlier, after Monday's meeting. Check your Google Classroom. That's going to be your best friends all senior year. I hope you've already been checking it since way before then. But for senior year, that's the go-to for information in regards to scholarships, college, deadlines, all of it. So please check in. Just check in, see what's new, what pertains to you. Submit the colleges I'm applying to checklist electronically by our deadlines, which we talked about already. And they're posted in the college office. They're on, you know, the presentation that you saw in June. So if you want, you just go back to it. Keep up your academics. I had a conversation just today with a student who was surprised to hear that senior grades matter. They were under the impression that, you know, once they did all their, excellence in junior year, that they, would not have to be so concerned and have plenty of time for the college applications. But the colleges all care all the way through June 30th of senior year, how you're doing. Are you the same student you were when they were interested in you when you applied? So right up to the end, we are sending information to the colleges that you're interested in. If you're doing elite schools, they're going to be asking me for things in the beginning of December, which ends up to be a report card because we don't have a transcript until February. So it matters how you're doing, what you're doing. If you ask me, can you drop a class? Once we put your classes in progress on Naviance, the answer is going to be no, unless there's some reason that is just, to be discussed very privately and very importantly, because again, that's going to reflect on you. If you drop a class that you said that you were going to take, why did you do that? That requires a special report. It requires an explanation. You don't want to draw any negative attention to yourself, which is why we ask you to be mindful of the classes that you choose for senior year, because you're going to be expected to finish them. Okay, so keep up, or if at all humanly possible, improve your academic excellence. Don't think that you're going to slide your way through the spring term. In that senioritis, I've seen it in the most dedicated of students. I have had my mouth dropped open that I never thought that this particular student would ever, fall into this trap, and yet they did. It's normal, but just be mindful that it's going to potentially impact. So with that in mind, everyone knows social media can be wonderful and it can be horrendous. So be super mindful of what you're posting. You don't want to post anything that's inappropriate that somebody might grab and, send it off to a college that you've been dreaming to attend. You just want to keep everything quiet. Finish senior year with no drama. The procrastination, it doesn't make you think better. it actually clouds your thinking, and it's going to stress you in ways that it's not necessary. You know that you're going to college. You know that you've had ideas in mind where you want to apply. There's lots of information that has been given to you along the way. Please take this word of advice and do not procrastinate. Set a schedule for yourself. Do what you can along the way so that you're not overwhelmed at the last minute. And communication with the college office is essential. We are not mind readers. We have no idea that you changed your mind. I'm still waiting for people who asked me about QuestBridge to actually submit it, because I cannot do anything until you do. So communication is really important on all levels. So best of luck to all of you as you start this process, and make sure that you ask questions of the college office rather than one another. No offense to you guys, but sometimes information is changed year to year. So what was true for your sibling may no longer be true for you. So just come in and ask a question. I'd rather you did that or send an email than rely upon secondhand information from somebody who says, oh yeah, this is what you have to do. Okay. And what colleges usually visit tech? What I can suggest is that you check Naviance, and that you'll see the whole schedule. There's a whole array of colleges. We're been working really closely with the University of Southern California. They've come the last couple of years, and they really enjoy coming. They love you guys. And I know that Miss Hannah is working to try to work that out, because there's only so much time that we have, and the reps too have a very full schedule. But all kinds of schools. I mean, Harvard always comes. Dartmouth has been coming in recent history. Check the website. Lots of really nice schools. Macaulay is, and I think Macaulay in particular is going to be virtual. And I think that they're doing 2 sessions, so they usually get a lot of students who have questions and are interested. But there's quite a range of schools that come. Okay, Ms. Kirschbaum, any other questions as we approach the hour? No, Carolyn, I have not. The only school that said straight out was Dartmouth, that they are not going to be reading essays. So the student needs to ask their teacher. Well, they should have, in theory, done that last year. Asked the teacher if they were willing to write a recommendation and secured that agreement with the teacher. And then, once the teacher knows, again, back to important to match Naviance to the Common App, so the teachers too know where you're applying and what the deadlines are, then they'll get their letters in, and they upload them themselves. And then once the student's application is done, the college office uploads everything, and it'll show in the student's application that the recommendations have been submitted. Anything else? Yes, they are due by midnight. I don't suggest you do that, but they are technically. So the applications can be anywhere from $50 to $85. I don't know if there are any $100 applications out there. I hope not, but they vary. Often schools will have some amount of leeway in offering waivers if they're really interested in having a student apply and you don't qualify for the Common App fee waiver. But it can get pricey. Anything else? So there are many, 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 many BAMD programs all over the place. There's many of them, and they're wonderful. What I would say about any of these accelerated programs is to really think about whether or not this is what you want to do. There are ways to get into medical school, like traditional ways of getting into medical school, that don't require foregoing going to college. It's a different experience to start your undergrad in a BAMD program. It's not like going to a usual undergraduate program. So often the complaints that I hear about that is that my friends are doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm in medical school. I'm already working very hard immediately, and it's not for everyone. So although these programs are great and they're available, they're not something that everyone should be applying to. You really have to know your work ethic and what is it that you really intend to get out of your experience in college. And if it's to save time with medical school and you're willing to sacrifice all that other typical college experience, then maybe it's a good plan for you. But really review it carefully. Okay. So the problem with not submitting AP scores, again, is this idea of bringing negative attention to yourself. Because is the score really bad, or is the score not up to what you think the college would expect from you? So the purpose of the score on the college's end is for them to verify, as I said earlier, whether or not the teacher's assessment of your performance in class is in alignment with you really understanding the material on a level that the college can offer you credit for, or if not credit, to put you into at least put you into a more accelerated class. So if they don't have those scores, then they can't do it, and they'll wonder about why didn't you submit them? They might even ask you, why didn't you submit them? So again, the fact that you took an AP class in high school, and depending on what class, what year, it's noteworthy and implies a certain level of rigor, no matter what the eventual score could be, because it could have been impacted by you were not feeling well. How many students come in very sick? They have to take this exam, and they just really can't. They're not their best selves, so they don't do really well. So there's lots of reasons why the score might be low, but leaving it out is something I would not recommend. Yes. So you're not going to have a program, your schedule for college immediately upon being accepted. That happens later on in the summer, after they have gotten the final transcript and they got, whatever scores that were missing that they need. If they were looking for an SAT, they're waiting for that. They're waiting for AP score reports. So you're done with your application, but they're not done with assessing and placing you within their institution. They've decided that they want you, and that's wonderful, but now they have to place you. So that gets done based on the classes that you have taken already and the scores that you will at that point submit. And, so it takes time. You're not going to have that right away. So the TAP is, generally aligns with the FAFSA. So again, it's a grant program. So if you are financially eligible, it's a limited pot. So the sooner that you do it, the more likely you are to get the most that you're entitled to. So again, it's going to unfortunately be tied to this FAFSA, which is, tentative right now. Hopefully it's going to flow, and all my concerns are for naught. But it's done as soon as you finish the FAFSA. There is a link to the site, the HESC site, HESC, where you would complete the TAP. So I don't want to belabor Dartmouth, and if they're coming in, you could speak to them directly. I got a counselor alert from them. So I don't know that I don't have time to check 4,000 colleges, what they've adjusted to their website, but this is what they sent in their counselor update.
I believe that's the end of the questions at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for attending, and I'll see all you guys on Monday in person for the repeat performance. All right. Thank you. Good night.